Hello! In Destiny 2, you can augment your armor with various mods to change or increase your performance. Before the release of Lightfall, this system used to be quite complex and opaque, including needing to collect mods as item drops and giving armor elemental affinities that made them work better with certain mods. It was kind of a mess, if we're honest. However, in Lightfall, the system was revamped to be significantly more approachable and friendly, a change I wholeheartedly support. There's a whole giant discussion to be had on complexity versus approachability when it comes to buildcraft, which is a video I will make someday. But suffice it to say, in this case, simplicity is an enormous benefit. Now, if you're, say, a new player who wants to learn how to use the armor mod system, you've probably come across this video by Dato. Destiny 2 Build Crafting 101, Mods and Armor Charge in Lightfall. I can confidently recommend this video. It's a very good tutorial on the basics of the system, and I recommend you go and watch that before you watch this, as my goal is to build off the information that video provides. It's solidly informative, moves at a decent pace, and provides an example of how to build craft at the end, which I know a lot of newer players find helpful. However, one thing it doesn't do is go over the majority of mods in any large amount of detail. Sure, he covers some, but not in any significant amount of depth. For the purposes of that video, I think that's a good idea, as it keeps the video short and approachable while also keeping it from aging as stuff is inevitably changed. That being said, I can also easily imagine how that could leave some new build crafters in the wind when they need to look at this absolute cavalcade of mods and try to decide what to use. That's what this video aims to be. I want this video to be a starter kit for newer players that separate the important and widely used mods from those that are more niche, explains what they're used for and what circumstances they should be used in. As a disclaimer, this video isn't going to be the be-all end-all of analysis for every mod out there, and it isn't trying to be. The video's main goal is to streamline the information for new players so they can try and make their own builds. Quick notes before we get into it. 1. A lot of mods have variations. For example, the mod that increases reload speed has a version for every element type. While these are considered by the game to be separate types, I will be discussing them as a group, as you generally just want to pick the one that works best for your weapons. 2. There are some mods which are labeled as harmonic. These are always the same element as your currently equipped subclass, but cost less, so use them where applicable. Alright, let's get started. Helmet. Special and Heavy Ammo Finder. Increases the drop chance of special and heavy ammo on kill. If a build has a consistent way to deal damage with its abilities, then it can run 2 special weapons. In those circumstances, having a way to generate extra special ammo can be useful, especially if you end up using those special weapons frequently. Otherwise, it's significantly niche. Heavy Ammo Finder, on the other hand, is always useful, since heavy ammo is the best way to deal damage to bosses. Heavy or Special Ammo Scout. When one of your Ammo Finder perks creates a brick of special or heavy ammo for you, it also creates a brick of special or heavy ammo for your allies. This is almost exclusively used in combination with Heavy Ammo Finder. In higher end content, everyone desperately wants heavy ammo, so Scout effectively just makes more ammo for everyone. But special ammo is more plentiful, and people using double special generally don't need extra support keeping their magazines filled, making the special ammo version less useful. Dynamo. Reduces super cooldown when using your class ability near enemies. For hunters, especially hunters that spam their dodge, it is great. For other people, you generally don't want to be in a situation where this triggers. Ashes to Assets and Hands-On. Gain bonus super energy on grenade or melee kill. If your build uses a lot of one of these, you can generate a lot of energy by just playing your build, which makes these mods extremely valuable. Otherwise, it can be an alright choice. The Elemental Siphon mods. Rapid weapon final blows of a specific element create an orb of power. If your build is weapon focused, this is always a good slot in, as more orbs of power is always good. Note that it's rapid weapon kills though. This does little if you're just using your weapon to deal with big threats. Power Preservation. Your super final blows create extra orbs of power for your allies. Unfortunately, if you're using your super, it's normally going to be on specific, very tanky targets. This is only really useful if you're using your super a lot on packs of squishy mobs. That's very uncommon, unfortunately. Radiant Light. Casting your super causes nearby allies to also increase their current armor charge by 1. Allies that have a different subclass element from you increase armor charge by 2. This mod has one of 2 uses. Either you spam your super a lot, and as a result can give an overwhelming amount of armor charge, or your support, who uses their super when they're about to start killing a boss, and as a result can make sure everyone is charged up when going into DPS phase. Those are useful niches to fill, but they're not universal, and you shouldn't slot in this mod without motivation. Powerful Friends. Collecting an Orb of Power causes nearby allies to increase their current armor charge by 1. Can be used to supplement other builds that may generate fewer Orbs of Power or are focused on doing mechanics, but generally builds are meant to be at least somewhat self-sufficient, especially if they need Orbs of Power to function, reducing the usefulness of this mod significantly. Font of Wisdom. Gain a bonus to Intellect when you have any armor charge. Armor charge decays over time. There is a font mod like this for every stat in the game, and they are found in every armor piece. However, most builds don't really care about every stat in the game. They mostly care about 2 or 3. And when you get later into the game and start saving higher stat armor, it's easy to max out relevant stats without needing to use these mods at all. This makes their gains unfortunately not as great as other options. The Elemental Targeting mods. Improved target acquisition, accuracy, and aim-down sight speed for weapons of a specific element. This is very good in PvP, as it makes it easier to hit things with your guns, but not really used at all in PvE. Arms. Firepower and heavy-handed. Your grenade or melee final blows create orbs of power. If your build gets a lot of ability kills, this is very useful, as it'll be the main way you're generating orbs of power. Even if you're more gun-focused though, these are still good, because very, very few builds don't care about their abilities at all. It's likely you're still using your grenades to kill something, which these mods make generate even more orbs of power. Momentum transfer and impact induction. Causing damage with your melee or grenade gives energy to your grenade or melee. For clarity, the energy goes to the opposite ability, so your grenade gives you melee energy and vice versa. If you care about both your grenade and your melee, this is free energy and very good. However, it's also usable if, for example, your grenade is incredible and your melee is just okay. Since it activates on dealing damage, not kills, you can funnel energy from your worse abilities to your more used abilities, making this mod set also very useful in those situations. Bolstering Detonation and Focused Strike. Grants class ability energy when you cause damage with your grenade or melee. This mod's value goes up the more you care about your class ability. For hunters, it's always at least decent. But for other classes, generally you want to use it if you have something that activates off of or pairs with your class ability. Melee and Grenade Kickstart. When your melee or grenade energy is fully expended, you gain melee or grenade energy. Additionally, your armor charge is consumed and you gain additional melee or grenade energy for each stack. These are very good mods if you want to spam abilities, but they do have some caveats. You generally don't want to use them with weapon surge mods, but weapon surge mods are generally more widely used for boss DPS. This means that using Kickstart trades boss damage in exchange for more ability usage. Whether that's worth it or not depends on your build and the encounter you're doing. The Elemental Loader mods increases the reload speed of weapons of a given element. If you want to use a weapon that reloads slowly or frequently, or if you're just very gun-focused, this is a very useful mod and increases your DPS. However, because of all the amazing ability-based arm mods it needs to compete with, it stands a real chance of being crowded out if you care about abilities. Font of Focus and Vigor. See my comments about Font of Wisdom. Shield Break Charge. Breaking a combatant's shield with a matching damage type grants you armor charge. If you're in a situation where this is applicable, it means you can overflow on ammo charges, but in order to regularly use it, you need to be swapping out your weapons constantly to match enemy shield damage types. That kind of necessitates that you don't really care what your weapons are, which isn't ideal when you're picking a mod that boosts your performance with weapons like this one. The Elemental Dexterity mods. Faster ready and stow speed for weapons of a given element. This is very PvP focused, and in that situation can be very useful. Faster weapon swap means faster access to different options. However, because each mod only covers one element, and because your kinetic and energy weapons are going to be different elements, it means that this mod only affects one or two of your weapons. Make sure that you're using the correct element for your game plan. Fastball. Increases your grenade throw distance. I mean, like, I guess you could use it in PvP? If you really wanted to? I guess? I don't know, man. This mod feels like it was designed for someone to cosplay a basketball player, which, I mean, based, but it doesn't really do much for the mod's viability. Chest. Charged Up. Increases the maximum number of stacks of armor charge you can carry by 1. Expensive, but useful. If you're using any of the yellow mods, this is especially useful, as it means that you can get back more energy per activation. For the blue mods, it basically lets you store up to 10 extra seconds of damage boost. It's also important to check to see if you're actually hitting 3 armor charge reliably with your build, because if you can't, this mod is doing very little for you. The Elemental Resist mods reduces incoming damage of a given element from combatants. These are very specific, but they give 30% damage reduction, so they're very usable. Generally, when heading into any content, you can check to see what the elemental threat is, then counter it with a resist mod. If you want to go in depth on this, enemies always use the same damage types, so if you know what enemy faction you're going up against, you can guess what kind of elements you're going to need to counter. The Category Damage Resist mods reduces incoming damage from either splash damage, melee range foes, or long range foes. These mods also provide 30% damage reduction, but they are unfortunately very specific. When they say close range, they mean literally in punching distance, and long range is over half a room away. This means that they are significantly less applicable than any random elemental mod would be on a given mission. The only exception to this is the splash damage mod, as explosions are fairly frequent. The Elemental Reserve mods. These mods give you the ability to store more ammo for guns of a given element. Notably, this is not increased magazine size, this is increased reserve ammo. For that purpose, you basically only pair those with your heavy weapons to gain more shots during damage phase, and for that purpose, it's pretty good. Just make sure you don't skimp on survivability. Emergency Reinforcement. When your shields become broken, you gain temporary damage reduction. Consume 3 or more stacks of armor charge, granting a longer duration of damage reduction for each charge consumed. While this mod can save you in a pinch, there is a laundry list of better ways you could be spending your armor charge, and ideally, you would make sure you're not in situations where you would need this anyway. Font of Endurance. See my section on Font of Wisdom. Lucent Blade. Increases the energy recharge rate of your equipped swords. Your equipped glaives gain more energy from dealing damage with their range attacks. If you're using your sword or glaive, this can be pretty good because it's just more resources. But unfortunately, neither swords nor glaives are meta right now compared to other options, so this mod is ultimately pretty niche. The Unflinching Elemental Aim mods reduces flinching from incoming fire while aiming a weapon of a given element. In PvE, this is really only useful if you're trying to snipe under fire, which doesn't happen very often, but is worth knowing about. In PvP, this is a godsend. Time to kill in PvP is very short, so making sure you can consistently land every shot while under fire is extremely good. Legs. Recuperation and better already. Either heal yourself a certain amount or immediately begin health regeneration as soon as you pick up an Orb of Power. If your build generates a lot of Orbs of Power, these are premier survivability options, as they both give you a lot of HP in different ways. You can even combine them to basically immediately fully heal anytime you pick up an Orb of Power. Combined with their low cost, they are extremely easy to fit in. Or, well, they would be if leg armor wasn't so stacked with great options. Still, they are extremely worth considering if you need survivability. Innervation, Invigoration, Insulation, and Absolution. Gain energy for either your grenade, melee, class ability, or all 3 when you pick up an Orb of Power. For clarification, each of the single ability regeneration mods, Innervation, Invigoration, and Insulation, all cost 1 energy, while Absolution, the mod that recharges all 3, costs 3 energy. This means that if you only care about 1 or 2 abilities, Absolution is overcosted. It's only really worth it if you care about all 3 abilities a decent amount, and or you need more room to fit in other mods, so Absolution recharging multiple abilities with 1 mod slot is more efficient. However, in general, these types of mods are very, very useful if you care about your abilities, as more ability energy is more ability energy. Orb of Restoration. Picking up an Orb of Power grants a small amount of energy to your ability with the least used energy. More knowledgeable viewers out there might have asked why this mod wasn't included in the previous discussion, and that's because it's a lot more niche. Because it gives energy on only a single ability, chosen semi-randomly, it has the energy generation of a single ability regeneration mod while being significantly less consistent. Generally, even if you care about all your abilities, you still have a preference, and in that case, it's better to just use a mod for that ability than use this. The Elemental Weapon Surge mods. Your weapons of a given element gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. The third type of incredibly good mod found in leg armor. These mods form the backbone of boss DPS options. If you need to rely on specific non-heavy weapons, it's best to have your heavy weapon share a damage type with it so they can both benefit from the Surge mods. Otherwise, just match your Surges to your heavy weapon damage type. Stacks on stacks. Picking up an Orb of Power grants you 1 additional stack of armor charge. This mod's usefulness goes down the more orbs of power your build generates. If you generate a lot, then this mod isn't really doing anything for you, but if you generate only a little, then this mod can give you the armor charge needed to make up that gap. This mod can also be used if you're using yellow mods and are spamming abilities, as this mod lets you cap on overcharge in 2 orbs instead of 3. Elemental Charge. Collecting a Fire Sprite, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, or Void Breach, or destroying a Tangle has an escalating chance to give you armor charge. Depending on how many of these collectibles you generate, this can give you a lot of value. It generally works best with stasis builds, as they generate a lot of stasis shards. But in general, look at how many collectibles you're generating and see if you would benefit from getting an armor charge from them. Font of Agility. See my comments about Font of Wisdom. The Elemental Holster mods gradually reloads your stowed weapons of a given element over time. These mods would be good if they were on a different armor piece. Giving any gun autoloader, especially heavy weapons, would be super useful, but the opportunity cost of using these is extremely high enough that they're rarely used. The Elemental Scavenger mods. Weapons of a given element gain bonus reserves when picking up ammo used by that weapon. Same deal as weapon holster mods. Would be extremely good if it was on a different armor piece, but man, losing a Surge mod for this feels rough. Class items. Outreach and Bomber. Reduces your melee or grenade cooldown when using your class ability. Its lack of restriction and low cost make it extremely useful, and if you care about one of those abilities a lot, it's not uncommon to stack up on them. Distribution. Reduces all ability cooldowns when you use your class ability near targets. Near targets makes this ability a lot more specific. Hunters get a lot of use out of this, but for other classes, it's more specific and its use needs to be a lot more motivated. Time Dilation. Your decaying armor charge has a longer duration. Because Orbs of Power aren't common during boss DPS phases, this lets your Surge mod last longer, which is very nice. Generally, a very good mod worth considering if you're relying on Surge mods a lot. Powerful Attraction. Automatically collect nearby Orbs of Power when you activate your class ability. In orb-rich environments, this can be useful for preventing you from needing to run around and physically touch all of them. Hunters get a lot of use out of this because of how much they spam their class ability, but all classes can make use of it. However, if there aren't a lot of Orbs of Power, or the Orbs of Power are easy to reach, it's probably better to swap in a different mod. Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon Final Blow spawns an Orb of Power. It's frequent that your class ability will have a relatively short cooldown, so if you're regularly killing things with your guns, then this mod gets a lot of value. However, if your class ability cooldown is longer, or if your build is more ability focused, this mod loses its power. Utility Kickstart. When your class ability energy is fully expended, you gain class ability energy. Additionally, your armor charge is consumed, and you gain additional class ability energy for each stack. If you remember Grenade and Melee Kickstart, I said those mods were very good. Unfortunately, class abilities tend to be on a shorter cooldown and are much less frequently the center of the build, compared to the Grenade or Melee options. This makes this mod much less important than the other Kickstart mods. Font of Restoration. See comments about Font of Wisdom. Proximity Ward. Gain a powerful overshield while performing your finisher. If you need to perform a lot of finishers for your build, this can be good, but in general, you're not doing enough of them to really make it worth it. The finisher mods. There are a lot of these, so I'm just going to let you read them yourself. Basically, these mods do a thing when you do a finisher in exchange for some armor charge. Again, if you're doing finishers a lot, this can be worth considering, but for most builds, using finishers means running out of cover to kill a single already weakened enemy, while all their friends shoot you constantly. Unless that enemy has enough HP that it's faster to finisher them than just shoot them, it's not exactly the most optimal way to spend your time. And that's all the mods. I've timestamped the video so you should be able to go back and read my opinions on specific mods if you need help with considerations in the future. Check the description if you want a building template, but I would honestly recommend just getting yourself stuck in and seeing what works and what doesn't. You've got this. Thanks for watching.
It's strange. I thought as we got further in, we'd see more of the old callous.